Hello and welcome. Thank you so much for joining me, everyone. There are several in the chat already, and thank you for coming. And I want to especially say thank you to my guests. Today I have with me Will, Godless Sewing.
Hello.
And Cynthia McDonald.
Hi, y'all.
Javier.
Yeah, what's up?
And Robert Reed.
Hey, everybody.
And today we are going to be discussing some of the aftermath of the Derek Chauvin conviction. And one of the things that I wanted to bring up personally was a legal issue. I was really surprised when they came back with a conviction on all three counts, because I was looking at that and I was going, how can you convict somebody 3 times for the same act? You know, he murdered one person. How can you convict him 3 times for that? And the answer to that question is it really varies from state to state, because where I got my law degree, the jury would have been instructed on the 3 different counts and told, if you find him guilty on the first count, you're finished. But in Minnesota, they do it slightly differently. They found him guilty on all 3 counts, but the judge can only actually punish him for one of the 3 counts, because you can only be punished once for a single crime. Now, if he had committed 2 separate crimes, suppose that in addition to killing him, he had also robbed him, he could be convicted for those 2 because those are 2 different things. But I wanted to get that out of the way. And other than that, I really wanted to let my panel do most of the talking, because they have a much better perspective.
He should be.
And one of
One
of the things that I wanted to talk about was, and this was a huge surprise to me as a white person, and probably was no surprise to any of you, is I thought, oh, what a sigh of relief. We're finally going to see some change in this country. And here we are, a week later, and we're seeing the same thing over and over again. I've lost count of how many more Black people have been killed by the police even since this conviction.
Right. Go ahead.
No, I was just going to say, what do you all think of that?
My thing was, when they said not guilty, or they threw the book at him and he was guilty, the first thing I did was probably what everyone else did, and that was the sigh of relief. And then it hit me right away. How fucking pathetic is it that we are celebrating a bare minimum standard?
Absolutely.
We all watched the same almost 10-minute video where a man slowly executed another man, and almost half this country was like, I'm not convinced. But from hundreds of years of being told you are not worth the same legal system as our white counterparts, we sat there and we were actually like, oh, well, that was great. And I went from relief to absolutely sad, because I didn't realize how much tension I was holding on to over the last year, because I had no trust that the American justice system was going to find a murderer guilty of murder. I was sad.
Neither did I. In any way, shape, or form, I was actually shocked when I heard the verdict.
Yeah.
I was actually shocked. I thought he was going to be found not guilty in at least one. Because the truth is, how many people have walked away doing the same crime?
Exactly. Rodney King.
Every day.
Right.
Like, how many people do we not hear about? How many people where it happens at 3:00 in the morning, and you never hear from them? I had a good friend who was a Texas Ranger. He's half Black and half white. He's from where I'm from. He was a Texas Ranger. He witnessed 2 white officers beat a Black man almost to death. He told his superiors. They fired him and put on his paperwork that he tells on other police officers.
Fuck me.
So this young Black man can never find a job in the police force again, because he told the truth. Because he was like, hey, I'm trying to stop something. He was actually trying to make a difference. It's systemic. This is business as usual. The only difference is that we have cameras.
Right.
I disagree with most of what I've heard so far. I'm being honest.
Please.
I don't believe systemic racism is a problem in America. I don't believe that. We could talk about individual cases, but the numbers just don't pan out. White people are killed by police officers just as much as Black people, if not more. Now, you might say that Black people are disproportionately killed by police officers, Whereas I would agree with you. There is a problem. Even black officers are more likely to rough up and mistreat a black young suspect than they are a white young suspect. With that being said, though, white people are killed by the police all the time. We don't hear about it. The media doesn't tell us about it. If I asked you to give me the 5 last white people who were wrongfully killed by the police, could you name them? You wouldn't be able to, because there's not an incentive to talk about those cases. We do a disservice when we ignore all the other cases that are wrongfully committed if you're not a black person. If anything, the system is in favor of black people getting the attention, in favor of black people getting the spotlight when these things happen. But if you're a white person and you're killed by a police officer, you can probably 100% accuracy know that nobody will care. Nobody will take the time to find out about it. Nobody will be in the media. Presidents won't talk about you and say your name. So I honestly think that we're missing a lot of the data that actually points in the other direction.
I disagree with that completely.
And
this is the reason being. Well, first off, at least one of the things you did bring up is proportion. Yeah. Oftentimes we hear, especially from different counter talking points from, like, I hate to say like conservative or right-wing media, because the left can be just as racist, that we are still, tomato, sir. Yeah. But the thing about it is this, is that, you have to please keep in mind that white or Caucasian population in the United States is about 76%. And African Americans were about 13% of the population. And we even have data to show that Black people happen to be stopped more by the police than a white counterpart would. Black people would actually even serve sentences for the same crime longer than white people will. We also have, and just about every Black person that we can actually talk to. Well, I'm not going to say every Black person, but a bunch of us can also have a story when I got pulled over by the police. And another thing that is actually very telling is that when we, even if you have like conversations with individual, white people, when it comes to how they view the police versus Black people, how they view the police in America specifically, it's going to be a different ideology or a different look. And the reason being is because of experience. We're not crazy. And the thing about it is that, even with myself, I'm college educated. All of my tags are together. I live in a house. However, I know that I even had my own encounters with police, and I would say that some were not too bad, and some were absolutely terrifying. And the thing about it is that I wouldn't necessarily think that I would even have to be yelled at by police or even be in fear of my life, knowing that I don't have a criminal record. Okay, I don't have and this is something that has been taught to me from the time that I was a young person all the way up to today. Make sure that you have your hands attended to. Make sure that you're talking to the police this type of way. And the only reason why we even have those particular talks, even with our children, is because we know from experience that oftentimes that it can go left at any time when we are dealing with the police. And even in Chicago, where I live right now, we have we have a very integrally tied in issue when it comes to how police disproportionately affect Black communities and even Latino communities in some cases. And also, I was just even going to bring up a case with Burge. He was a police chief for years in Chicago, had his own basement set up where he was torturing people who were disproportionately African American and Latino into confessing to crimes that they did not commit. They had to fight him. They had to finally shut down his particular torture center and also pay off those particular people and discharge them for crimes, discharge them off for criminal records from what they did not commit. And this is a story that we even hear over and over again. We don't even talk about even what happened in New York with stop and frisk. All of Bloomberg even admitted that this particular policy was going to disproportionately affect Black folk and Latino folk because of profiling. And this is a thing that has happened over and over and over again in a lot of our particular cities that's in the United States.
And if you, I could give you a tour of California where we literally have apartheid going on young Black and Latino men right now. If you are young and poor, you're probably going to end up in the prison system here in
No
California.
question.
We have more prisons
Same
than
here.
schools. They
Same
can't
here.
stop building prisons here
Yep.
because disproportionately they are putting young black men in jail, and to the point where they're closing down Men's Central Jail in downtown Los Angeles because it's considered a torture chamber for young black men. That's fight school.
Can I ask you all a question?
Go ahead.
Have any of y'all been incarcerated before?
No, there are no people in my family that have.
I have.
Okay, I have as well. All right. I want to point out a few things.
Go ahead.
Do anybody know who Tony Temple is?
Nope.
Okay, Tony Temple was the white guy who died similar to George Floyd because he had two police officers kneeling on his back and neck when he actually died. And they were laughing while they were sitting on his back and neck. Nobody knows his name.
Right.
Do you think it's a coincidence why nobody knows his name? It's because it doesn't matter.
You know, here's my pushback on that. Every time I hear that talking point, my question is, then why aren't white people pissed off too?
Okay,
if we're just going to sit here and say 5 black people died and 5 white people died, then the problem is the policing technique. Every time I hear that, it's like, then why isn't everyone fucking pissed off?
Well,
and again, it's a matter of percentage. And you're right.
You're missing a point.
No, I'm not missing a point.
The amount of police killings have been going down constantly over the decades.
Here's the thing. This country has a foundation. If you look up the history on why there's a police force in the first place,
we can't go back that far.
No, you can't go back that far. Here's the thing. If I slap someone, if I may, again, if I slap someone across the face right now, just because it stops stinging in 5 minutes doesn't mean there's not an after effect. The person I slap is going to remember that. And let's say it's because I'm black. You don't think that that's not going to have an effect on how they view black people later on in life. The fact is the policing system was set up for a reason. So and just to say, no, I did not say that.
But they will always
always
be the foundation.
Stop. No, you have to stop. You have to stop. Because the problem is, you're right. We need a policing system. That's why it is worth rehabilitation. It's not like the Catholic Church. We don't need priests. But if that thing goes away, no one's going to cry. We're going to be just fine. And if we're going to fix the problem, you're right. And the diagnosis goes back hundreds of years. So to sit here and say, well, let's just start right now. Well, great. We have all this in the past. And so you can't just sit here and say, let's start in 2021 because the problem goes back.
You're not listening.
You're not listening.
No, we are listening and we have listened.
But that you're correct. No one's paying attention to that. We don't want, and see, here's the thing, specifically in America. And this is the reason why we're constantly having these discussions over and over again. It's because America doesn't want to deal with its past. America doesn't. And here's the thing. I'm a medical case manager. You know, I deal specifically with people who are infected with HIV and other comorbidities. The first thing that we always do when we are inducting a new patient is we talk to them about their medical history. We have to find out what you've been diagnosed with, where it came from, what your mama had, what your daddy had, what your grandma had, et cetera, because all of those particular things can actually influence your particular issue that you're having right now. Okay. The fact of the matter is that policing in America came from slave patrols. It did. And the thing, and also because it came from slave patrols, we're still seeing the same type of techniques that's even happening again. And another thing concerning, you know, this whole thing about Tony Temple, I've heard his name previously before, but you know, I'm old, so I don't remember everything. But the thing about it is that, you know, the reason if you're saying that no one actually addresses it is because we still have a system that actually favors white over black.
I'm trying to deal with statistics. I'm trying to deal with the facts that as we know it, and I'm not discounting what you're saying. If you would let me finish my point, I would have tied it up in a nice, pretty bow for you. What I was saying is that, yes, all of it that you said is true about the history of policing and all of that. But in order to properly diagnose the problem, we have to be realistic about the statistics and the data that we have currently in the moment and how to fix the problem.
Okay, but you said, I'm not trying to interrupt, but you said, people are dying. People are being murdered.
Yes, but it's not a racism problem.
When someone gets stopped, they are more likely to get murdered if they're reaching for their cell phone. There is a real problem that's happening right now.
How many police interactions happen every year in America?
Brother,
how many what happen?
How many police interactions happen in America every year?
Why don't you tell us?
Well, I mean, we're going to have a conversation and nobody wants to bring up the actual facts of the policing situation.
But that's just it. We are.
Over 14 million interactions happen with the police every year.
Okay.
Out of all of those interactions, less than 25 black men have been shot by the police, last year? Out of 14 million, black people make up 13% of the population in America. 13 to 14%, correct? Okay, tell me why black men specifically make up over 50% of the violent crimes in America. You can't boil everything down to racism. You can't boil every single thing down to racism. There has to be a multitude of factors that you have to deal with.
So really quick, in 1966, Mike Wallace had an interview with Martin Luther King. And Mike Wallace looked at Martin Luther King and he said, don't you think people are tired of civil rights? Don't you think people are tired about hearing about civil rights? We got a war going on. There's men dying and everything. This conversation has never stopped. It hasn't stopped, and it needs to continue. People are being murdered. We are literally being devalued. Screw statistics. There are people, I am othered. I, just like Cynthia, I own a home. I live in a nice neighborhood. I'm othered when I walk in my own neighborhood.
Nobody's disagreeing with you.
That's not okay.
I'm not disagreeing with y'all. What I'm telling you is you can't boil everything down to racism. There has to be other factors that we have to look at.
But your language is the reason why Derek Chauvin.
No, it's not. No, it's not.
Yes, it is.
No, it's not.
Hold on. What, Miss?
You are caping for murderers.
Oh, Miss McDonald, I can't hear you.
I'm gonna mute myself.
I had my mute button on. I'm so sorry, you guys. I wanted to address specifically what Mr. Javier said concerning about violent crime, specifically in the African American neighborhood, and you are right. But I want to also I'll also want to take you through history. I'm not big on philosophy, but I love history. Okay. Mm-hmm. Because if you don't know, if you can't deal with your past, you're definitely not going to be able to deal with the present. Now, if we want to talk about specifically violent crime and how it happens disproportionately in African American neighborhoods, we have to talk about the systems that actually keeps us disproportionately poor. Now, do you remember? I don't know if you're familiar with the prohibition that happened, I believe, in the 1920s.
Yes.
Okay. Now, in prohibition on those particular days, the ones who actually got into bootlegging happened to be mostly immigrants or immigrant descendants of that happened to be Eastern minorities, Eastern European. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, one of the things that was happening oftentimes in that particular time period, it was violent crimes amongst people who were Italian, who were Jewish, who were Polish, who were Irish. And another thing, but also we have to deal with some of the laws that was happening at that particular time, because they dealt with being biased, not being hired, being, in some cases, they were even cut off from even being able to borrow so that they can actually open legitimate businesses. So oftentimes, a lot of them turned to crime syndicates in order for them to make money. Mm-hmm. Okay, so once we actually had government intervention like the New Deal and also those particular groups having access to whiteness, a lot of those particular violent crimes lessened exponentially in their particular areas. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, when we are looking at the African American community now, one of the things that is really very much so prevalent with our specific group, and we got to go to history and we got to go to policy. Policy is that African Americans were disproportionately redlined. Policy is that African Americans dealt with Jim Crow, that actually came up with these separate but equal laws. But the Supreme Court during Brown versus the Board of Education had to strike that down because separate was not equal. And then after we get the Civil Rights Act of 1964, the Fair Housing Act of 1968, and also the Voter Rights Act of 1965, which actually became gutted in 2013, and we're seeing the aftermath of that. We're also now dealing with all those particular after effects from those particular policies. Now, you can't tell a whole people that now that we have removed these particular, barriers, which they're still practiced in some shape, way, or form in some underground areas. Just look up some of the latest articles that even came out about redlining, just as recently as 2018, specifically in the Chicago Tribune. We are still, you're going to tell a whole people that we're just going to go ahead and pull up our bootstraps after we just wait, hold on, let me finish though. But you're going to, but the thing about it is that you're going to tell a whole people that we're okay, now you remove the barriers, you can go ahead and run the race now, okay, for after 50 something odd years. But we're still dealing with wealthlessness, and we're still dealing with, different policies that have after effects in our particular community. And so we're going to end up having, higher crime. The thing about it is that when you have high poverty, and I'll even give you an example specifically.
Or the lack of fathers as well.
That too, all of that. But wait, hold on. I'll deal with that too. But the thing about, but also too, please also think about this, sir. And let's talk about mass incarceration for a second. 41% of the prison population right now is African American men. 41%. There's more Black men locked up in the United States than there are women that's locked up all over the world.
Yeah, full apartheid. Apartheid.
So so the thing about it is that, and you can't just tell me that Black people are just more disproportionate.
I'm not disagreeing with most of anything.
Okay, I said, but let me finish. I said, but you, I'm not saying you specifically.
But you've been talking for a while, and I just understand that we are on the panel.
Remember,
she's got facts.
I
got facts as well.
And wait 1 second. And also too, Mr. Javier, I do have a time limit because I got to get off by 8 o'clock. But the thing about it, but what I'm trying to, get to the conclusion of, all of these particular portions of what I'm talking about is that policy breeds, and also the poverty that's actually very much so pervasive was by policy by the government. And also those policies have bled into our particular institutions, including policing. So we can't just sit up here and just say that none of these particular systemic racism is not an issue, and especially how it even shows up how the police are acting towards Black people versus how they deal with white. Even if you're looking at raw numbers does not actually give the whole story, especially when you're talking about disproportionality.
Okay, yeah, I don't disagree with most of anything that you just said. My point is not to tell you that you're wrong about any of that. My point is to tell you that when you try to boil anything down, and if you go talk to any social scientist in any field that worked on any social issues throughout the decades, they will automatically tell you that you never reduce down one problem to one solution. Racism is not the only problem that Black people in America face, and it is not the biggest problem that we face. It is also not the main contributor to why Black people are where they are currently right now.
Then what
it is a big contributing factor on how we got here. But with the problems that we're facing right now, if you took racism out of the picture, we would still have a hard problem.
Okay.
You can't.
I'm not saying that you should remove it. What I'm telling you is,
in the sky, pie in the sky.
Listen what I'm telling you.
Well,
go ahead, Javier.
Javier finish.
Go ahead, Javier.
Go ahead.
That's what I'm telling you. Racism exists. I would never deny that racism doesn't exist. Are there racist people within our country, within our government that harm Black people? Of course there is. What I'm telling you is the moment you try to make everything a Black people problem has to deal with racism, you're missing so many other factors that we can control and that we can change to improve ourselves in America.
We
don't want to talk about that though.
Can I ask you a question specifically? What do you define as racism?
I define anybody who looks at another person based on their race as being inferior to them, or committing an act or discriminating against somebody due to that characteristic that they can't change about themselves. So if I look at a Jewish person and I think they're beneath me because they're Jewish, that's racist. If I don't hire a Jewish person because they're Jewish, that's racism. There are white racists in our country. There are black racists in our country. People are trying to redefine what racism means so that black people cannot be racist. This is the country we're living in right now, and this does not fix the problem. It makes the problem worse.
So what do you? So what do you feel is what is the change in definition of racism?
They said you have to have power to be racist.
What was power?
Okay.
What was that?
Okay, well, yes,
my
and
man.
you know what, and that's actually true.
This is the problem in the black community. Nobody wants to hear somebody with opposing views because they instantly get
that's
shut
not-
down.
That's not true.
We listen. You know what? When Granny said, we want to have somebody on here who has an opposing view, I said I welcome it because I
So
love
do I.
I love civil discourse.
Yo, probably
Because
thought
the
it was
thing-
me.
But the thing about it is because if we don't necessarily have very honest conversations, we can't get anywhere. And to be honest with you, Mr. Javier, I don't necessarily have issues critiquing black people. I critique them all day long. But the thing, but the thing about it is just to completely just say that, and here's the thing too, concerning, if we just talk about racism itself, racism is way beyond biases. It's way beyond prejudice, because the thing about it is that even when we got race, if we even look at how we even got race was all to create it was all to construct a bottom caste. It was all, remember, race was born here. It was born here, right here in the United States, in order for us to create a caste of people, in order for them to be enslaved. And we used it in order for us to build this country. So, and that particular institution influenced a lot of different institutions. It influenced banking, it influenced insurance, it influenced infrastructure, and we still deal with those aftermath today. So it bleeds, and also too, what race did when it was created, it created a dominant society. It created a bottom caste, and it created a dominant caste.
It existed so long ago.
But it's
do
still,
you know,
but the thing
but
about
look,
it is
what I'm
that
saying
you
is,
can't. But
how
even
far
if
do you want to go back? How far do you want to go back?
We can go
All right.
back to 1526. We can go even back to 1682 when you actually first heard the word black in court cases before there was a United States.
All right. Do you know that the Persian Empire, which was not a white empire, invaded the Greeks and wanted to rule the Greeks, which were Caucasian men and women, right? Okay. That was a people of color race trying to oppress a white race. You could go back as far as you want to try to justify anything.
No,
there were
that was
Africans
one
who
nation.
helped.
No. That was one nation invading another nation in order for them to dominate that particular nation. We're talking, and that particular time period, even if we're going to go there, before there was how people identified themselves had nothing to do with race. It had to do with their country of origin. So when you actually talk to a Greek person at that particular time period, they say, well, how do you identify? I'm a Greek. I'm a Persian. I'm a this, I'm a that.
Even if we're talking about Africa, ancient China that says that they particularly call the pale man the white man. Even the Native Americans were calling white people the pale man. And they were talking about them being dirty and not clean. So race existed much longer than you're saying it actually did. People perceive each other based on their skin color.
These particular constructs, like how people were perceiving is one thing, but the actual constructs that were written in precedented law did not happen until the 1680s, when after the squashing of Bacon's Rebellion. And it was all to actually be able to change the way that the United States, before the colonies were able to do to change their labor force. Because they understood that indentured servitude did not work, and they had to switch to free labor.
Look, like I said, I don't disagree that racism is a real thing. I don't disagree that slavery was a real thing. Jim Crow, redlining, all of these things had a major impact. The things they used to do to African men, the things they used to separate families, and they used to rape our women. Look, I'm not a conservative talking head. I'm not somebody who's trying to sit here and tell you that racism doesn't have a major impact on African Americans. That's not what I'm trying to say. What I'm trying to say is this ideology that racism has to be at the forefront of all of Black people's problems in the current day.
Javier,
it's doing us more harm.
But
Can
it
I
is
ask you a question? May I ask you a
Just a
question?
minute, Robert. Let him finish.
Go,
and then
I'm
we'll
sorry,
then it's Robert's
Javier. Go
turn.
ahead. Go ahead.
Because just like the 1619 Project, for some reason, people feel like African Americans' history matters most when it got to America. Nobody wants to talk about the Africans who helped sell their people into the white people's possession. How the Arabs were over there, who started the slave trade. Nobody wants to hold them accountable. Why is that? Because it's not really about finding the solutions. It's about using what happened in history as a club, as a way to get what we want. And that's not how we should be operating, because it's not working. If it was working, it would have worked by now.
I have a quick question.
Okay, wait, no, it was Robert's turn next. It's Robert's turn next.
Okay.
Javier, how old are you?
I'm 28.
Oh,
That's what let me okay, I'm knocking on 50's door, so I got you by a couple years. And so my problem is when people talk about race and racism like it was from 1700, you got to understand, my man, when I talked about the slap across the face, and just at 7:30, when that slap stopped stinging at 7:35, the effects still last. You got to understand.
I know. That's why I asked you
Wait.
Why you
please,
stop there?
Stop. You got to understand. I made All-American in college football. My dad is literally borderline genius. My father, not my great-great-grandfather. My dad, who was borderline genius, was told at the school that made me All-American, literally said, "No niggers allowed." That's what they told my father. My grandfather was literally a slave. He did not have the legal title, but what do you think the son of a slave is qualified to do? And so when we talk about race and racism and the effects of racism and when does it stop, the question is, when did it ever stop? And we're sitting here, we're talking about, you're addressing the past like it was 900 years ago. My man, it was today. Those effects are still happening. And so when we say things like the policing agency was made for a reason, and I'm the first one to say, hold on, sorry, I've been awake for a long time.
nothing but love.
I love all of y'all. We're going to have a good discussion. And so when we sit here and we talk about, I'm the first one to tell you, I still think cops are good. I really, really do. But you got to understand, you can't sit here and act like the foundation of why we have police is not still there.
I did.
And here's the thing, and I've said before, wait, one more thing, and then I'll shut up. It's like military as far as I'm concerned. There's a reason why people become cops. One, you feel it's your civic duty. You really, really want to serve the community you're in. And for those people, my dad is a former cop. There's people who are like, it runs in my family. My dad was a cop. My mom was a cop. My grandfather was a cop. I'm going to be a cop. Then there's the third kind. And those are the people who are simply looking for a legalized means to commit homicide. And that's why you got to throw in the people like Derek Chauvin and Amber Geiger and all the other assholes who kill Black people and they get a 2-week paid vacation. And so you can't sit here and say, it's in the past, it's in the past, it's in the past. The effects of how this country was founded is being felt today in 2021. That's it.
I don't think anybody's listening to me.
We are listening. It's just that we've run these laps.
I've said multiple times that I did not disagree with any of those things that y'all said. I did not say racism isn't real. I didn't say slavery didn't happen. I didn't say any of those things didn't happen. Here's the thing. One more thing, and I swear to you, and I'm being respectful, and I'm absorbing everything you're saying. The thing is, I've been your age. You've never been mine. You're demeaning me now.
No, I'm not.
Being demeaning
no, I am not.
Now.
No, you're not listening. No, your age is important. Everything you have said, I've already heard, and I've heard it for 30 more years. There are people your age
who are Black, who are older than you, who agree with me. So age has nothing to do right now.
No,
I think it's
experience.
They do.
Hold
no,
on one
no,
second.
you do.
No,
You do
hold
have
on.
them that agree with you,
Oh,
but that
hold on
doesn't
one second.
necessarily make it, but we have to. But one of the things that I really want you to hear, Javier, specifically, is that, even though, like you said, that like I'm not disagreeing with anything you said, but you did start the stream saying that I just completely disagree with everything you just said.
Yeah, up to that point.
When we first started.
Yes, up to that point.
So so that should be addressed.
Yeah, but we've already when I said that I disagree with everything y'all said, we were like maybe 5 or 10 minutes into the conversation. And then we talked about a whole series of other things. It's 3 of y'all who disagree with me. So I apologize if I'm saying a lot, but
I think it's important to tell history and to tell the truth, because someone at my age looks at you and thinks you're like someone like you doesn't get it. And so
I'm the minority. I'm the minority here.
I think it's important to
most people my age will probably agree with you.
I think it's true. I think we need to keep speaking history because, like, I need to gather my thoughts, because you kind of threw me through a loop. You kind of threw me through a loop because, quite honestly, like I said in the beginning, there is the continuation, the never ending of systemic racism. The names changed, went from horses to cars.
Yep.
Now, back in the day, I have deep roots from South Carolina, Savannah, Georgia, Yamacraw Village. They had black people on horses hunting black people. That doesn't make it less racist. That doesn't make it right. What I'm saying is nothing's changed. It's just become more advanced. The excuses are more BS. It's the same stuff. I feel sorry for you.
Nothing's changed.
Wait a minute. But 1 second, Javier. So I can get an understanding of what you're saying. You're saying that racism, yes, it's not that racism doesn't exist, but do you feel that racism is not a pervasive issue that plagues black people?
No, racism exists. Racism is real. We should focus on racism. I'm not saying we shouldn't. What I'm saying is there are so many other things that we need to focus on, and racism doesn't make the top of that list.
So let me ask you, what are the things that you feel as a community that we should focus on?
I definitely think we should focus on fatherhoods in the black community. I think we need better fathers, not just fathers who are around, fathers who are capable of being great fathers and raising their kids. I think that is one of the biggest problems that we face in America.
So let's deal with that. You said fathers who are around and that can raise children and be there, et cetera, et cetera. And you know what? I don't disagree with you. Now, are you familiar with the ownership of wealth that African Americans have in the United States versus white people?
Why does it have to be versus white people?
Because it's important. We are
the richest black population in the whole planet. Black people in America own more wealth than any other black population on the planet.
No. Okay, then so you just answered my question. No.
If black people had their own country, they would be the 7th richest country in the world.
That's a fallacious argument, sir, and I'm going to tell you why. First off, and I've heard that argument before. First off, are you familiar with a terminology called the racial wealth gap?
Yes.
Okay. Now, currently, Black Americans only own less than 3% of the wealth versus what white folk actually have. They have over 90% of the wealth.
Why are we always comparing ourselves to white people?
Wait, hold on.
Where do you live?
Wait, one second.
I live in America.
Well, 1 second, fellas, 1 second.
Me too.
Listen. We have to do this because we don't even own the wealth that's actually, proportionate to our population. If we're 13% of the population, roughly, give or take, yet we are less than 2% in wealth, which is mostly tied up in older people, like baby boomers, who were able to take advantage of some of the policies that happened after the Civil Rights Act was signed. But then a lot of those but unfortunately, the Civil Rights Act wasn't specific. Well, no, I'm not going to say unfortunately, but unfortunately, we did not necessarily have a specific policy that fixed our wealth position of Black Americans. That went to minorities, including white women. We're still dealing with that after effect of not owning, not having even the wealth that is proportionate to our population. So I don't know the last time that anyone has checked here, but kids cost. Children cost money, okay? And I'm pretty sure that any of you all who actually have children on this particular panel, I know you do, Will. I know you do, Kelly. Godless, I'm sorry, I got to call you by your name now.
Kelly is fine. Kelly
You
is
know,
fine.
right? And I'm pretty sure that any of you all would tell me right now, after you are raising your children, that them was some expensive bugbears, okay? Okay, so we got that particular point straight. All right. Now, so since we know this,
I'm not trying to be funny, but that PlayStation Network costs. It costs money. PlayStation Network.
Oh, that was a good one. Keep going.
I spent my nieces, my eldest niece is about to have a baby, and she sent me her registry, and I said, Jesus Christ, Mary and Joseph. So anyway, but I'm really trying to make a point. So if we know that children are expensive in itself compared to what we actually own as far as like wealth, we're having issues when it comes to even paying for them. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, and here's another thing. Here's another thing that that I necessarily think that's actually espoused enough when it comes to Black fathers in the homes. Now, oftentimes the way that single parenthood is counted in the United States is by marriage. So, I heard a statistic today that said that 1 in 4 Black women are likely to get married in the United States. 1 in 4. Mm-hmm. And a lot of that can correlate to wealth. And there was another article that I read a few years ago that even talked about marriage specifically, and how marriage in itself is a contract. It's a business contract. You got to own. If I marry somebody else, we have to. All of our assets are one. Okay, ain't no divvying up nothing, right? When we file our taxes, that's a one thing. So and also too, partners who actually have assets and resources are more desirable to marry than not. Okay, mm-hmm. So when we're dealing with Black people specifically, when it comes to our wealth position, our lack of resources, even if you look at the median income for a Black household, it's only about $33,000 in the United States.
Come on.
And even if you look, and also too, some people say, well, education is the way. Well, if you look at the median Black household, when it comes to a bachelor's degree, it's about $70,000 in the United States. A white family household without a high school diploma is roughly $85,000 in the United States.
You know what's happening? Black people, and I think this is something that white people have done well. They've taken your identity so much away from you that you can't help but tie your identity to white people. This is what's happening. This is the most successful thing they've done to Black people.
Wait, hold on.
No, Cynthia, let Javier finish his point.
Okay, and then I'll counter.
This is the most successful thing white people have done to Black people. There is no thinking about being Black without thinking about white people. We literally must tie our identity to them. I come from the projects. I fought my way out of the projects. I've done time. I've been in and out of police cars my whole life. I've been racially profiled. I know the whole line. I got friends that's dead right now. I got friends that were killed by cops. This ain't have nothing to do with my experience. The moment I started to take accountability for my life and to decide to do the things that I could control, I can't guarantee you that I would have made it as far as I did. But I know I'd make it a whole lot further than placing all of my excuses on the things that happened that I can't control. You can never change the past. But what you can do is, hey, we got some problems right here that we can fix. But we're so busy worrying about what white people did to us that somehow we can't get past that.
Okay, so here's the thing. Here's the thing, Javier. And the thing about it is, like, a lot of times I think that you and others who have these particular mentality about, taking accountability, even though I don't necessarily have an issue with that, I believe in taking accountability too. One of the best things that my father ever told me is when I was in college and I kept on messing up because I didn't know what I wanted to do and et cetera, et cetera. He told me, he says, Cindy, if you have this wall that's in front of you, and you keep hitting your head against it, and it's all bloody. And you keep doing it, and you keep doing it, and you keep doing it. And one day you're going to get tired of hitting your head against that wall. And he was absolutely right. And that's when I ended up taking accountability for my particular part of why I wasn't being successful in school. I went ahead and finally I went to work and I went to school at the same time. I got my degree. Even after I got laid off from my job, I went back to school, got a certification, and now I'm a social worker. So I completely agree with you about taking accountability and taking the horns of your life. But sir, this is not about your experience. And this is not about my experience.
Definitely.
This is about a collective experience.
Definitely. And you're hurting the collective.
No, I'm not hurting. No, I'm not hurting. I'm not. Wait. No, I'm not hurting the collective.
What I am excuses.
No, I am not giving excuses. I'm telling the truth. The thing about it is that if I'm talking about white black wealth in the United States being less than 3%, that's a fact. If I'm talking, wait a minute, hold on.
Go ahead.
If I'm talking about the black household medium in income being 70,000 with a bachelor's degree compared to whites as 85,000 with a high school diploma, with less than a high school diploma, that's a fact.
Yeah, compare.
Wait. Yes, because here's the thing: we live in America.
Yes, but do you know what you can do with that 3%?
Sir, I let you finish. Let me finish, okay? And the thing about it is that because we live in America, and because these policies, and we also have to tell the truth when it comes to different policies that actually got us here in the first place. And the thing about it is too, and this is another thing too. You know, I hear these particular arguments about, well, if you did this with your money, if you did that with your money. If you look up a cursory research into Black spending habits will tell you within the Bureau of Labor Statistics that Black Americans spend about 54% of their income on housing. The next portion is on food.
How much money do Black women spend on weed?
No, sir. We're not going to go there. And here's the thing. And here's the thing. Because even if you look at that same statistic, when it comes to, goods, apparel, and when it even comes to entertainment, it's less than 2 to 3%. So even if a sister wants to spend... How much is 2 to 3%? Wait.
Give me a number. Give me how much.
No, I'm just saying of their income. If you look, like I said, this is according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics. This is not Cynthia pulling shit out her ass.
No, okay? I want to know how much 2 to 3% is.
But 2
Give
to 3%,
me a dollar amount.
2 to 3% compared to 54% of your income. When most lending practitioners would tell you that your housing should not be more than 30 to 31% of your income. And if you're spending over 50%. So over half of your income is just keeping a roof over your head. And if a person wants to spend a little money on a luxury in life because they're catching whatever that they're dealing with, that's one thing. But wait a minute. But even if a person actually spends some money on a weave or even spends money on a pair of Jordans, if they even kept that money, that's not going to get them out of
but you're making it seem like Black people don't have money. Black people have money just when you compare it to white people.
Javier, Robert has been waiting for a very long time, and I told him that he could go right after Cynthia.
I think the problem, honestly and truly, I'm going to take, you don't know me, Javier, from a can of paint. So I'm going to tell you, I teach women how to fight. That's what I do. When I put on my W-2, I teach women how to kick guys in the balls. And there's one story that I'll never forget. It was when I first started. This lady told me about an attack that happened. And when I'm sitting and I'm doing the math in my head, she's in her 50s. She's talking about an attack that happened when she was in college. That story kicked her back emotionally to the point to where she started yelling at me. She started screaming at me, and she started punching me. You are ignoring, and you're saying you're not, but you are. You got to understand, like I said with my analogy with the slap across the fucking face, these things have effects that touch us today. And you're sitting here talking about, well, how far do we go back into the past? And I say, What about 5 fucking minutes ago? These things still affect us. Just if I sat here and I told this lady, look, that was a quarter century ago. What about right now? I still have not talked about and addressed the offense that happened to her 25 fucking years ago, right? And so when you sit here and you continue to say, what about now? What about now? What can black people do right now?
I'm trying to fix the problem.
Wait. When we're sitting here talking about, well, why are we always talking about white people? Dude, I don't think you heard what I said when I told you. I made all American at a school that told my dad, literally, no niggers allowed. This isn't 500 years ago. We're still trying to dig a hole and put dirt over a big pile of shit that we are all still smelling right now. And I'm glad, my man. And let me tell you something. I bet you I can speak for everyone in this room and everyone listening. You're not the only person who dug themselves out of the hole.
I know I'm not.
Right? I grew up on I grew up on potted meat. We were poor as shit. Right? We all were. And I'm not demeaning your age. When I said I've been your age, you've never been mine. My only thing is everything you have said has been thrown at us before and debunked already. That's why I'm saying you're not saying anything that I have not heard in my 30 years, 20 plus years that I've got on you on this planet. I'm not demeaning what you've said. All I'm saying is that I've heard it before and we've already dunked on it to the point to where we've broken the backboard. That's it.
Well, I asked y'all, could y'all name the last 5 white guys who were killed by police officers wrongfully? Nobody could.
And I've already said,
why don't you make that your cause?
Then why don't we? Then if that's the case, why aren't white people just as upset? Like I said an hour ago, if you're going to sit here and name 5 whites and I can name 5 white blacks, then it's a policing problem. Just to say that it's a push is not solving the problem.
I'm not pointing that out to say, oh, black people aren't disproportionately killed by police. That was not my point. My point was, don't you find it awfully strange that you only hear about specific stories? You have to look at the broader picture here. And there's more going on than just
it's
racism.
Just like every time I look on a box of fucking milk, all I see is a little white girl. You ever notice that? You want to sit here and say no. Like I said, I've been down this road before. You have not.
Well, I just told you there are people your age and older who agree with me.
You're right, and I can tell you all the people your age that agree with me as well.
Most of them probably do.
Then fine. How about this? What is your solution? How do we make sure that the next black person who gets pulled over for a busted taillight doesn't get choked to death by a fucking road cop?
Most of them
if we're just going to sit here and say that it's got nothing to do with the past, but you're going to say it does, what's your solution?
Most of them probably don't. Like I said, there are millions and millions of interactions with black men every year in America. Most don't end in a shooting. Most don't end with a black guy getting his life lost. So we can already admit that, okay, for the small group of people who actually do get their life lost, then we have to specifically look at each case individually and stop grouping them all together and saying, oh, it must be racism. Or maybe it's bad training. I'm down for better training for police officers. I'm down for mental health evaluations. There are so many different solutions we can look at.
And I don't think anyone is disagreeing with you. The problem is, and I've said this on Twitter before, it is the standard. Again, the exact same reason why people used to pay money to watch me sack a quarterback is the exact same reason why I am more likely to get my ass whooped for a busted taillight than a white dude. I look like a menace. If you know me for 5 minutes, you will know I am a fucking teddy bear. I just look like an axe murderer.
Yeah, if you're
right.
So I need to put both of you guys on hold for just a moment because Cynthia needs to get going, Cynthia wanted to give a couple closing thoughts before she takes off. Go ahead, Cynthia.
Thank you. So because like the whole portion of this particular discourse is the where do we go from here, right?
Exactly.
And the thing about it is that I remember specifically I was with a client when Derek Chauvin's verdict was read, and I was really trying to get her to go home because I was really looking that this was probably going to go south. And I remember specifically what happened when Rodney King's all the 4 cops got off and LA went into fire.
I was there.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm old enough to remember that. So, you know, and I was very much so afraid. And I mean, like, and also like they rioted not too long after George Floyd's murder in Chicago too. So I was afraid for that. But the thing about it is this, you know, as much as I don't necessarily like to attribute, you know, a whole bunch of stuff to racism, the thing about it is that a whole bunch of stuff is attributed to racism. And the thing about it is that what has to happen in these particular instances is we have to deal with policy, we have to deal with these structures, and we have to deal with the way that they are disproportionately affecting a group of people. The thing about it is that Black Americans, we're citizens. And the thing, and a lot of times that, even if we look at court cases in itself, the 14th Amendment was written shortly after slavery was abolished. However, one of the things that we have not been able to actually experience on the macro level is equal protection under the law. And it is unfortunate. There is a bill right now that is sitting in the Senate that they have not voted on concerning, that was introduced and passed in the House in 2020 after George Floyd's death, that actually would address a lot of these particular issues that are coming up concerning how police are dealing with the public. And to be honest, if it was passed, it would help Black folk and it would help white people that have also had ill or maltreatment from the police. It would help actually all citizens. And there's a lot of different things that we can even deal with just the institution of policing alone, or even how the fraternal order police throughout the nation has way too much power, or even we can even deal with qualified immunity. All these particular topics are like extremely important to address, because the thing about it is like if we don't get it under control, this is going to be a issue that's going to happen over and over and over again. And with that said, reparations. All right, y'all. I'm out.
Thank you for coming, Cynthia.
You are incredible.
As always.
You are incredible.
You all have a good one. It was nice meeting you, Javier. Good seeing you, Robert. Good to see you, Will. And thank you, Kelly, for having me on. You all have a good day.
Thank you for coming.
Good night.
Go get him. Go get him. Okay,
Javier.
She's incredible. She's incredible. That's every time I've been on the show with her. Just damn, is that not just the smartest woman you have ever?
You know,
go ahead.
Before we go
She's
off,
incredible.
Before we go off for 3 hours, I think it's important that we don't just skate past life, regardless of what you believe. A human being was murdered.
Yeah,
for something that he shouldn't have been. And I think sometimes, regardless, see, again, we're playing the word game. Regardless, a human being died. They didn't get to go home. Imagine if you're just walking down the street and you don't get to go back to where you're sitting right now, you know, over nothing. And it wouldn't matter how you feel, if you agree with that cop or not. They're still going to whoop your ass.
Yeah, that's
the problem. I live in the burbs. I live where people, I live in an extremely beautiful area in Southern California. It's like paradise. Our neighbors, we wave to each other. Everybody's nice. I always talk about how I live in a Mormon neighborhood, but let me tell you, just on stream the other week, something happened at my neighbor's house. The ambulance came, the fires came, the cops came. I closed my garage door, because the cops give me a hard time in my own neighborhood. I get pulled over in 2017. I paid almost $4,000 in tickets.
Damn it.
They couldn't stop pulling me over. And the truth is, it was because I told one cop, "Oh, you pulled me over because of my color." And he kept on doing it and doing it, because they were trying to get warrants out for my arrest, but I had the money, I paid for it. It's life, you know.
There are racist cops. There are racist cops.
Again,
right.
You're not dealing with the issue. You're just boom, skating past it. I
think you're going too far, Will.
I'm trying to deal with the issue.
I think there's systemic racism, and there's problems that need to be fixed, but they need to be addressed.
Yeah,
and just saying, oh, let's move on.
Just like with the Derek Chauvin trial, since I mean that's one of the main things that we were here to talk about afterwards.
This is true.
There was nothing in the case that pointed towards him being a racist. There was no charges against a racial crime or racial hate towards George Floyd. Nothing about that case proved anything for Derek Chauvin to be doing what he did out of racism.
Agreed.
There wasn't even
Agreed.
But everything is about race. That's what people care about in this case. Race. Instead of, this cop sat on this guy's neck for 9.5. It's always the race narrative. And I'm not saying that there aren't situations where cops are doing racist things and they need to be held accountable for it. I'm a black man. My mom's black. My brother's black. My sister's black. My wife is black. Most of the people I know is black. So I would never try to ignore the fact that if there is something that is a danger to people that I care about, I pay close attention to it. But luckily for me, I don't have any ties to this whole world. I grew up in a situation where I was, look, it's not about my situation. What it is about is I didn't ask to be political. I was an atheist first. People brought politics to me. And luckily, I wasn't political. I wasn't into these issues. So I started to look at the information for myself, started to study history, I'm really big into philosophy and all of these things. And I didn't come to that conclusion. From the world that I see, from the data that I see, there are much more things that we are in control of that can better help Black people in America. But making race the first priority that we should be fighting today, I think is foolish, and it's going to cost us more than it's going to help us.
I wish it wasn't
we
that way.
Already see it. More people have died since the George Floyd protest than died the whole year before.
Life is continuous. It's not in moments. What we're talking about never stopped.
Black people
racism
have died because
never
of
stopped.
This.
That's exactly what I said.
You're right, Javier. They have.
More Black people have died due to the George Floyd protests and riots and looting than that would have died if that didn't take place. If you talk
On
about
the other
Black Lives
hand,
Matter,
you can say it about anything. Hold on, but you
60s
can say it about anything.
crime is going up. Police are not policing communities like they once were, and crimes are going up. More Black people are being harmed due to this. I'm not just
in the
talking
60s when we had the
Oh,
civil rights movement, there was a lot of violence against Black people, and the amount of violence against Black people escalated. But it was necessary because without that, we would still be under Jim Crow. There are times when we have to protest and we have to, and the difference between Martin Luther King and Malcolm X was quite prominent, but both of them had a valid point.
I think Malcolm X, I think Martin Luther King is not. I'm a big believer in nonviolence. If you want to protest and you're upset about something, I think you have every right to go out and protest. I think you have every right to get your voice heard, to petition your government on behalf. I'm 100% for that. That's the American way. Hey, go for it. The riot and looting, I know it wasn't everybody. But for those people who did it, that's a whole different story. But the thing that I want to point out, and I'll shut up. The thing I want to point out is I really think that this racism, wokeism narrative, this Black Lives Matter movement that is sweeping.
I'm older than Black Lives Matter, bro.
All right, I'm not addressing you. I'm not addressing you.
Black Lives Matter.
I'm not addressing you. I'm addressing
Black Lives Matter.
What? Go ahead, Javier. Let me hear it.
I'm not addressing you personally. I'm addressing the times that we're in. It's become a religion. I was in a cult before. I've been a deep, devout Christian before. I became an atheist. My parents are very religious. People at the church told me this. They treated me just like I'm being treated right now for deciding that God wasn't real.
Being talked to is not being violent. You are spouting Fox News talking points.
I don't watch Fox News.
You sound just like
you sound just like.
No, I do not. No, I do
yes,
not.
you do.
I criticize conservatives as well as liberals.
Makes
they
two
don't
of
get
us.
beyond me. It's not a political thing. It's about looking at the evidence and what we have before us and what's the best way to move forward. If we want to sit here and reminisce about the past and keep the past alive every day, yes, the past happened.
I'm going to say this. Hold on, Javier. I'm just going to say this one more time because I don't think this is really going anywhere. Like I said, if you got a lump in your nutsack How long are you going to ignore that before your dick just blows up from testicular cancer?
Absolutely.
Right? I'm not going to say this another time. You cannot ignore the past. And you've said, I'm not, but then you turn right around and say,
no,
how much further are we going to go into the past?
We can't make the past. We can't let the past define our present.
No, but we have not appropriately addressed the past.
And
this
we should.
is exactly, you're right.
But the way you're going about it, I disagree.
So then I asked you before, what do you suggest? I just
and you didn't
told
give me a
you.
chance to respond.
The hell I haven't. I've been sitting here quiet.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, the stuff that you're talking about has real-time effects.
I know it does. And right now.
So then stop saying that it doesn't.
Because the people who disagree with me, they've caused much more harm than I have. The people who are telling black kids that they should fear the police, that they should be afraid every time they get pulled over by a cop, it's causing more harm than good in America. I was that black kid. I know. The reason I'm so passionate about this is because I remember being lied to about a lot of stuff growing up, and it cost me.
Yeah,
so,
it makes, and you're not alone. I was told the exact damn thing too.
So I digress. How about that? We just agree to disagree because
you're right. We
I
do. I'm just going to say this one more time.
Oof.
You cannot sit here and say that the past does not have an effect, and you're going to sit here and tell me right now that exactly. Then you'll turn right around and say that it doesn't, but it does.
Okay, let me make it clear. I'll say it in one sentence so we can sum up everything I've been saying here. The past happened. It has effects, but do not let the past define your present or your future. We can focus on the things that happened in the past, and we should fix some of the things that affect us.
I agree. But my only point is we've addressed it, not really, but we haven't fixed it.
So
the effects from 1964, 68, when my dad got out of college, you got to understand, that touched me.
I get it.
This is not 1700.
I get you.
Hold on. One more thing, because I've got you beat, and I know you're going to think I'm demeaning you. I'm Generation X. Generation X black people are the first generation of black people in this country to enjoy full civil rights. That means I'm the first person in my family that did not legally have to walk through the fucking back. So you're sitting here, again, you're going to say that you're not, but you are. What happened yesterday is affecting us today. I'm Generation X, which means I enjoy civil rights. My oldest cousin, Tina, the original Strand is what we call her. New Roads, Louisiana. She's not Generation X. My cousin, who I just saw 14 days ago, does not enjoy, grew up in a time where she did not get the same civil rights that her cousin got. And I'm born smack dab in the middle of all the Leonard grandchildren in Louisiana. So again, I'm not going to sit here and listen to how it doesn't affect us. And you're going to say it doesn't, then you're going to sit here and make an argument that it does.
I think you're just misunderstanding what I'm saying, and I don't mean that as a personal attack.
It's not a personal attack on you either. I'm just telling you the way at TI is.
Yeah, and I talked. Most of the people that I talk to are older than me. Most of the people who are 60, 70 years old.
And you know what?
The elderly.
Please continue to talk to them.
And that's what I try to do. I try to talk to people who are wiser than me, more educated than me, and. I get there are going to be people of different ages that have different perspectives. Like I said, I'm the minority within my age group. There are probably most people that are 28 years old probably think on the lines that you do. But I'm also an atheist. I'm a minority. Most people believe in God. That doesn't make me wrong. So though maybe the numbers may be against me, I'm strongly on the side of, based on the information that I see, based on the data that I got, the history that we have, yes, racism is a problem. Racism affects us. It's even things that happened in the past that affect us to this day. I'm trying to look at the situation that we currently inhabit and figure out what's the best way to get black people where we need them to go. Policing should not be at the top of that list. Should it be on the list? Of course it should. But policing, getting as much energy and attention as it get compared to some of the other issues black people face in America, I don't understand the logic behind it.
You know what, Javier? Let me tell you something, man. I'm a passionate ass dude. And if you were next door to me, I'd buy you lunch, I'd buy you a drink, and we can talk. Right? As 3 black people here, let me tell you something, man. You're on my side. We may disagree on some shit, but I'm telling you, if you ever needed me, I would fucking be there. Right? And I'm not trying to demean you when I say I just want you to know, hey, we're having a disagreement.
I feel the same way. And I think that people are watching us right now. If we all could get on here and we could all just agree. I think people get more when they see opposing sides and they get to decide for themselves based on the
that is exactly why I'm on Twitter. That is exactly why I have a podcast.
I agree.
I have zero problems being dunked on because you don't learn shit.
Yes.
In moments of comfort. Yes, right. And so when I want to reiterate, when I tell you, because I had the old folks tell me this shit too. And you know what? When you hit my age, I guarantee you, you're going to say the same thing. I've been your age. You've never been mine. Right? I've run the laps that you're just now starting to run. And when I say I've heard everything you've had to say, I have. You said 28?
Yes. I just want to point out that I heard that same argument from religious people.
Yeah, and you're right. And you know what?
You're too young to understand.
It doesn't matter about religion.
Because I'm sitting here, I'm looking at Godless Sewing. I'm a fucking atheist, and you're this side. You're an atheist too.
We're all
39 years.
Yep.
Yeah, we're all atheists. 39 years. I was a Bible beater. And I had to have my mind changed by getting new information. Right? And so again, all I'm saying to you, this is what happens when you've been up for, I think, 22 hours. Hold on. There's nothing wrong with a passionate exchange of ideas. Mm-hmm. And what I'm trying to tell you is I've heard all the arguments you've said. And when you said you don't watch Fox, the reason why we jumped on you, because you sound just like Fox.
Identical.
Yeah, and I watch Fox.
I'm liberal's favorite conservative.
And I'm an independent. And if you sat there and you looked at my lifelong voting record since I was 18, 16, I'm probably 60-40. I'm willing to listen to anybody. I don't give a fuck what your affiliation is. I just want to know if you're right.
Exactly.
Right? And so, again, my man, we disagree. But you keep doing you and you keep digging.
Yep.
And you're going to find whatever answer you need. But again, I'm so bad at math. Is that 20 years older? I'm 49. What's the math on that?
What are you putting me? That's 32 years.
God damn. Young buck, I was in fucking college when you were born.
You're doing it again.
Shut up. Yeah, I am. And you know what? And when you hit my age,
that's what the preachers tell me.
That's
what the preachers tell me.
What's that?
We're getting close to the end of the time because I usually try to hold it to about 90 minutes. And I know Robert's been up for a long time.
Yeah,
and it's almost bath time for young Mr. Sewing too.
Yeah. But I do want to give everyone a chance to give some closing thoughts. And you know, we do still have 15 minutes. So go ahead and each person take about 5 minutes.
I'm gonna make mine short and sweet.
Okay.
Protect yourself, speak for yourself, let your experiences, speak your experience. From my experience, in no way, shape, or form do I trust the police. Do I trust people that work for the police or anything that comes with that? But that's my personal experience. I believe in bridging the gap, reaching across the aisle. I hope that you don't have my experience, Javier. I hope you don't. And it's because of my experience why I don't trust the police. But I'm from Los Angeles. That's a whole different subject. I will end with this. Study history. Study Black Wall Street. Look into it. Look into what's happened systemically to Black people and has not stopped. Times have changed. We're all consumers. In America, we have stuff. We have junk, but no one really has money. And there's a difference. There's a big difference. Yeah. So, like I said, by all means, you're 28. Please protect yourself. If you protect your family, look out for your people around you, because that's all I do. honestly, Granny, thank you so much for letting me be here.
Always thank
This
you.
was an
Yeah.
amazing fight. I was roasting marshmallows. Half the time. Woo! Thank you.
Yeah, and let me hit this real fast before my brain turns off. Someone just said that they've got 20 years on me and it doesn't make them right. She's right. Javier, I'm not, all I'm telling you is that I've already been down the road that you're going down. Right? And again, I just told you, keep asking questions, keep digging. Right? When you hit my age, you may have a different aspect. I'm not telling you that you're going to end up like me. All I said is again, I've been down the road, you're starting to go down. And 30 years from now, you may look back at this video and say, Robert was an incorrect sack of shit. you just may. You just may.
And I may not.
Or you may end up just like me. Right? But again, here's the thing. You're not gonna learn anything in a moment. You're not gonna learn anything worthwhile in a moment of comfort. So keep kicking up dust. I don't agree with you. I do not agree with you. It doesn't mean I hate you or I even dislike you or disrespect you.
Absolutely.
Right? Like I said, if you were my next door neighbor, I'd pour you a drink. I'd queue you up a steak on my barbecue and we would sit and have a talk. Maybe you would change my mind if we weren't on an internet type of situation and we could just have a fucking back and forth.
I think I could.
Right? And you just may.
And you might change my mind. And that's what
here's
it's about.
the thing. I'm a brain damaged C student. I don't remember what I've had for breakfast most days. All I said was, I've already heard what you've had to say. And I've heard it from other people. Right? So you keep doing you. Right? I don't agree with you. Not tonight. But keep doing you. And that's all I'll say.
All right. I'll say this. I don't want anybody to assume that I haven't done my research, my homework. I read a lot.
Okay.
I'm a bookworm. I consume a lot of information throughout the day. I'm a very intellectual person. I came from the streets. I fought my way out of it. I spent time 5 years as a juvenile from 15 to 20 years old. I found myself in a cult and very religious. I had to find my way out of it and became an atheist. I remember the feeling of being demonized and looked down upon because I was just wrong. I know the feeling of, oh, you're young. I've been there. I've done that. Come back to me when you're 30 years older. I hear the argument every day from people. And look, I could be wrong about 100% of everything that I said. I'm 100% comfortable with that.
Right there. You are good to go right there. Keep going.
Yeah. My job is to look at all the evidence, all the facts that I possibly can, and try to have a coherent conversation with other people, get other people to think for themselves and figure out what's going on in this world. Look, you're talking to a guy who doesn't even know if reality exists. I'm that deep into the rabbit hole of philosophy and the reality. My mind goes in deep holes. So I love Black people, and I was a Black kid, and there were things that happened in my life that I was misled down the wrong path. Gang members, people who taught me the wrong thing, who were 40 years old, 50 years old, who told a young kid, here, grab this gun and do this. And when I got out of that mentality and that mindset, I decided never again will I allow people to use lies to control me. So I made it my own mission in life to try to figure out the truth in anything that I possibly pursue. Like I said, I could be wrong about 100% of everything I said tonight, but it's not out of trying to hurt Black people. It's not trying to make excuses for white people. That's never my intention. My intention is purely to say, let's look at the facts and the evidence, find out where we should be focusing our attention, and let's get there. And I just think that right now we're going down a path, my personal opinion, that is going to do us more harm than it's actually doing good. That's just my personal opinion.
All right, my man.
What harm do you see coming as a result of the path that we're on?
I think we're going backwards. I think we should be heading to a place where race is just like hair color. It may never ever get there, but we can try to get as close as possible. But right now, we have people in college dorms who literally say no whites allowed. That's Jim Crow style. People who are saying that, oh, we're dividing each other into every identity, sex, race, and now it's considered to be a good thing. Black-owned television, Black this, Black that. We're doing the opposite of what we wanted in the very beginning. I don't see why this racism is the cure to racism. I don't understand the logic behind this. And
One more
People
thing
made the
before
same
I
arguments
go ahead.
about affirmative action 15 years ago.
Affirmative action has been bad for the Black community.
One more thing before I tune off real fast about that whole. Again, you're sounding a little bit like Stacey Dash when she was like, "Why do we have BET and the BET awards and everything else?" You got to again. It's you don't get to tell me how you whipped my ass in the 100-meter dash when you lined up at the 70-meter mark and I was at the starting line, right? And so exactly. So we have. Do you know why there's Alpha Phi Alpha, the Greek fraternity?
No.
Because we were not allowed to join the white ones. So we had to make our own. And you got to understand, again, this is not 500 years ago. When I was in college, I'm a Phi Beta Sigma man. When I was in college, not at UT, but at Southwest, which is now Texas State, they literally told us, you can't have any more step shows, which has its roots in African dance, because the white people couldn't do it or they didn't know how to do it. And so it's like, until you teach them how to do it, you can't do it either.
What's the name of the thing?
Alpha Phi Alpha is the first Black Greek letter organization, aka Alpha Kappa Alpha was the first Black Greek letter organization for women. And it was done. Hold on. It was because we weren't allowed to join the white ones. And even when, especially like with AKA, and they can tell you their own history, you still had to have white standards. And so we're still playing catch up. And this is why you have, pardon me, the BET Awards, the Essence Awards. This is why you have affirmative action. And one more thing, hold on. You have affirmative action because when white people sit there, they tell you, well, I just got here from hard work. Yeah, no, you didn't. Because when you went in for the application to get the business loan, you were only competing against this much of the population. Because again, when my grandfather was alive, he was still not legally, but by definition, a slave. And that white man went into the bank without any women. Women couldn't hold credit cards until 1972, the year I was born. And so when we sit here and we say affirmative action's bad, white people got where they got from hard work. No, they didn't.
I would never make that argument.
No, and I know. Just hear me out. And so when you say affirmative action is bad,
I said it's been bad. It has actually a lot of negative effects on Black people who go to college.
If that's the case, make sure you shit on the white people who are living in 3-story houses that they inherited, because the majority of wealth is passed down. And the one thing that we do not have, statistically speaking, is generational wealth.
Agreed.
And we're pushing up on the time limit, and my brain's turning into meatloaf.
Yeah,
this needs to be another discussion. But that's what I'm saying. It's one more thing. You can't tell us to catch up when they've had an 80-meter head start.
I don't want you to catch up.
And we're sitting here.
You're
right. I want us to get there.
I want you to make progress, but I don't want your progress to be based on how close do we get to white people. I simply care about how many lives can we save in the Black community. How soon can we get to the next level? If we always compare ourselves to white people, we will always be behind.
But that's not it. And one more thing. It's like I live in Austin. You can get to San Antonio by either going I-35 or I-10. You and I both want to get to San Antonio. I'm taking I-35, you're taking 10. I think we've got the same goal. We're just taking two different roads, right?
Yeah,
this is probably I think it is.
But
this
you
needs to
named
be another discussion.
And I'll wrap it up here. You named your Alpha fraternity, but nowhere did I hear the Black Alpha. You didn't have to put the word Black in front of it. I think that when you define something by a characteristic, you're by default making it a race thing. And even though it was a race thing, you don't have to call it Black thing. We don't have to be.
But that's my point. You understand. Again, it's like there's a BET because we weren't allowed on other stations.
I get it.
Alpha Phi Alpha was formed because when we tried to get into their organizations, like I said.
But why isn't it called Black fraternity or something?
I made again, you got one more thing, man. Seriously. I made All-American in 1995 at a school that literally told my father, no niggers allowed. This is why we have the SWAC. Do you know what the SWAC is?
Mm-hmm.
No, I do not.
Southwestern Athletic Conference. I played in the Southwest Conference. SWAC is an all-black conference. That's Grambling. That's Jackson State. That's my parents went to Southern and Baton Rouge. Right. Look at the Saints flag behind me.
Yep.
We had to go there. This is why we had Bethune-Cookman. This is why we have Morehouse, because we weren't allowed. Howard.
But I know this. I know this.
I don't think you are internalized. Go ahead.
We can go on for days.
Yeah, you're right. Granny, your show. I apologize.
It's okay.
I apologize.
Yeah, I'd just like to make a comment on how far I have come, because I'm actually 11 years older than you are, Robert. I will celebrate my 60th birthday next week.
Hey, sadly, this is only water, but cheers.
When I grew up on the southwest side of Milwaukee in a white suburb. There was one black person in the entire city. He was an adopted child. I never realized just how racist my upbringing was until about a year ago. Somebody on Twitter asked, how old were you when you had your first black teacher? And I started thinking about it. I said, well, there certainly weren't any black teachers in elementary school or high school because there were no black people in the city. And so I started thinking about college. No, there were no black teachers at college. Yep. Grad school, I have a law degree that I got in Texas. No, there were no black professors at the law school. I've never had a black teacher, ever.
Damn it.
Ever. There have been no black people in my life. And so I said, I need to fix this. And I tried to have a panel discussion a year ago, and I couldn't get a black person on because I had no black people in my life. I didn't know anyone to ask. And I was heavily criticized for trying to have a panel on racism that was all white. And here I am a year later, and I know black people.
Hey,
you know what, Granny? And you're on. And hold on. I have to.
Period.
I have to commend.
I now have friends.
I have to commend Granny too. No, I have to commend Granny too, because I went off. I got all mad in the chat and I stormed out. I threw my phone across the room, and here we are a year later. And I think Granny's an amazing person.
No, absolutely. I will always do her show if I'm available. Always.
Here we are a year later. You know.
See, you learn. We all learn. You're never too old to learn the fucking lesson.
I knew when I was coming on that I would probably disagree or be the minority in this group, mostly because you're an atheist channel, and most atheist channels tend to lean to the left or liberal politically.
Right.
Yes.
So I knew when I take on this task that I'm probably, people in the chat probably won't agree with me, but I do this because I care. And I don't have any midget friends or smart little people friends. I don't see people that way. I see, I try to judge people based on their character. That's what I try to do.
Fair enough.
Build that world.
I don't think two wrongs make a right. And if white people mistreat me, I think that I should do the right thing, because two wrongs never make it right. And I will not play by their rules. I will not let them set the deck and set the table and decide that, okay, they set the rules, I'm just going to play by it. That's not how I'm rocking. I'm going to choose to be the person that I want to be and live in the world that I choose to live in. And I'm not going to play the race game. I'm not going to play the gender game. I'm not going to play the tall people versus the short people, the attractive people versus the non-attractive people, because I meet people in all of these categories who have different experiences, different opinions, different backgrounds. And that's the beauty of it. Tell me about you and your experience, and not about, oh, because you're black, you must have this experience, because it's not always true.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. All right.
Yep. Okay. Time for shilling. Godless Sewing, do you have anything you want to shill for?
Okay, hold on. Hi, I'm Godless Sewing. Do you like trash fires like we had today? Every Thursday, Jen from Jen's Little Corner, Kitty the Atheist, and myself, we have a show on Jen Little Corner's channel called The WTF Show. And Javier, you are invited to come and fight me anytime on there. We can have it out. Nah, it's nothing but love. And I also every Wednesday Purple Rhymes with Orange has midday in America. Every Thursday Purple Rhymes with Orange has midnight in America. Sam Chaos, Maddie, and myself also have a podcast out every Wednesday. It's called Pub Religion. It's a Christian, atheist, and a pagan walk into a bar. You know, we come together. You know, we come together, different points of view. You know, and if I forgot you, I still love you. And thank you for having me on, Granny. Thank you.
Yeah.
You're welcome. Robert, do you have anything you'd like to show for?
Oh, hell yeah, I do. Always glad to be on your show. And if it's a matter of me sitting and listening to Cynthia McDonald read the yellow pages, I will sit my black ass right here. I think she's an amazing. She is. I've been on like 3 shows with her, and it's just like, yeah, she's amazing. But I'm Robert Reed. I host Gin and Truth. It's a podcast that I just launched, and it's me drinking and talking shit about social issues, racial issues, political issues, basically whatever pisses me off, which is everything, because I don't sleep and I live in chronic pain. So Gin and Truth, I've been picked up by 7 platforms, Anchor, I'm on Apple, and it's a whole bunch of other shit. But at RC Reed 40 on Twitter. I think I've listed all the stuff, and again, my brain's turning to meatloaf. But Gin and Truth, let's go. That's my podcast. Check me out on Spotify.
Hell yeah.
And on the description to this video, there is a Twitter link for Will and for Robert, and there is a Linktree link for Javier and Cynthia and myself. Javier, what do you have coming up on your channel?
I just dropped a video about am I a deist? I talk a lot about philosophy, religion, you know, those things. I also talk politics and culture. So I'm really just an all-around person who likes to challenge ideas and try to see how far we can go down the rabbit hole in all of these conversations. I really appreciate you having me on, Godless Granny. I don't mind being the oddball in the group and having these conversations because I love it. I love all of this. It's beautiful. And I think y'all are beautiful. And I put your voices out there. Let's have great conversations. Let's learn.
As we should.
Let's challenge each other. And the Javier show on YouTube, hate me or love me, but we will learn something together.
I like that.
Okay, very good. And on my channel, what I have coming up, I am going to be out of town next week. I'm helping my daughter move from Seattle to San Diego, and so I'm going to be gone the entire week. However, I have a huge show lined up for next Tuesday, so we will make sure to be stopped at a hotel where I can get all of my equipment set up because Seth Andrews will be here for another episode of Why Are We Here? And Javier will be back again next week. He is going to be on that episode where we talk about what we do and why. And also on that episode will be Jen with 1 N and Julie from Wine and Raisin. And so that is going to be a great show. Mm-hmm.
All right.
I'm also in the process of working on a produced video that is poking fun at a prosperity gospel person. It's Terry Copeland. I'm not sure if she pronounces her name Pearsons or Parsons. She's the daughter of Ken Copeland.
Okay.
It's a prosperity gospel thing, and it is a hoot. She uses some choice words that really. I don't think she meant to use those exact words. And I'm going to see if I can't get something else put together too. I've got another project in the works that I'm hoping to have finished before I go out of town so I can release it while I'm gone. But Cynthia is supposed to be working on a response in that one for me, and I can't finish that one without Cynthia's response. So we'll see if that one goes next week or possibly the following. It depends on when I get Cynthia's response on that.
All right.
All right.
Okay, so that's what I have coming up. That's what everyone's got coming. I thank my guests so much for being here, for coming.
Of course.
It's been wonderful being able to share some different ideas and just explore some of the issues that we still have going on here in our country. Yeah,
absolutely.
Definitely. I welcome any of y'all on my channel anytime. I do one-on-ones and we just hash these things out. So if you want more of this,
Again, at RC Reed 40 on Twitter. Hit me on DM.
Godless
follow
Sewing.
you and let's do this thing. Yeah, absolutely.
Hit me up on Twitter, Godless Sewing.
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
All right, will do.
Thank you, everyone.
All right.
Peace and glory.
Peace, gang. 2 fingers.